As for dormant Bitcoin addresses, this is a staggering stat. Staggering. As for holders that have held for at least 5 years, okay? 5 years. The number of Bitcoins being held by these holders for at least 5 years, 17.87 million BTC. Okay, and what does that mean? That accounts for over 90% of the circulating supply right now. So, what does that mean overall? 90%, over 90% of all the Bitcoin ever mined that's circulating right now in the world, 90% has been held for at least 5 years. That's a staggering stat. That is wild, right? You think about it. All the fluctuations, everything that we're going through right now is really fighting over what? Less than 10% of the supply? And as time goes on, more and more and more and more are being bought and held and hodled, right? So you're really seeing just a very small piece of the overall pie, basically, right? And if you think about that, there is no way, as more demand comes to the space, as more people and institutions, the company come into the space, and as supply continues to diminish, there's no way that Bitcoin's price is not heading higher, right? You just do the math. It is. So that's a staggering stat that I just want to show you guys. That's quite amazing. And of course, I've shown this before. This is the reason why the balance on exchanges continues to drop. It's at a 4-year low now, and it continues to go lower and lower and lower and lower and lower as more and more people accumulate and hodl. That's the name of the game. Here's the hash ribbon, which measuring basically how profitable it is for Bitcoin miners. So now we're coming out of that capitulation stage, which is kind of like a stage where it's unprofitable for miners, even though you got to take this with a grain of salt, because I have talked to HUD 8 personally before, and they had told me that their how much they spend to mine in Bitcoin is way lower than what Bitcoin is now. So it's not like they were hurting. The miners are still profitable. So you got to take this with a grain of salt. But traditionally speaking, whenever you look at something like this with the hash ribbon and it's coming out of that capitulation, a red stage, you do see Bitcoin make a tremendous comeback. And that is where we are right now. So that's also positive. Of course, you have a lot of buyers, right? And charts like this prove it. Number of addresses holding 10 plus coins, it's coming up from our lows, right? It just keeps going up. And now it's not an all-time high, but it's at an 18-month high. So I've been showing a lot of charts like this. So there are still a lot of holders that are definitely buying, staying strong. And I covered an amazing statistic, I think yesterday, about how number of Bitcoins being held for over 5 years by holders makes up 90% of the circulating supply. Think about that. 90% of Bitcoin is being held by holders for over 5 years. That's a staggering statistic. Staggering. Mind-blowing, right? So despite all the bad stuff, despite all the headwinds that's holding down Bitcoin, right, there's still a lot of goodness happening in the space, obviously. Hold or not, I talked about this. Unfortunately, it looks like they're 200 million in the hole. They are based in Singapore and Hong Kong. I don't know how many of you guys are from there. Hopefully none of you guys are using them. They're also a lending company that seems to have gone under, and they are in debt to 17,000 creditors. So 17,000 people use them, unfortunately, and they are 200 million in the hole. And I do believe, again, they had exposure to I think either Terra or CryptosRus, one of the two, but unfortunately they don't look too good at this point either, just like all the other lending companies, really. What else is there? Well, as for Bitcoin is still doing its thing. Here, Stock Money Lizard points out that, yeah, even though Bitcoin has fallen, but it's still making higher lows, which is good. Still following this trend line. Volume is also following, right? So it's still on its way. Of course, Metrics like this in terms of addresses holding more than 0.1 coins continue to skyrocket up to the moon. So nothing has really changed with Bitcoin. There's volatility, there's headwinds, but the number of holders keep increasing. The number of Bitcoin being bought keeps increasing, and adoption and growth is still on its way up. So nothing really has changed with Bitcoin, and that's a great thing. Still a lot of people trying to predict where it's going to go near term, not long term, near term. So here's one that's just measuring Bitcoin in this channel and how the RSI is coming up, although you guys can't see it because my camera is cutting it off, but it's okay. Basically just showing Bitcoin is still making higher lows, making higher highs. We're in this channel, right? Are we going to keep going? Quite possibly. Here's one. This is a moving average cross. So this actually is looking bad at first, but actually it's a bull thing. So this is looking like it wants to form a bear cross with the 50 and the 100. But here's the thing: the last few times that this happened, when you had it like a bear or death cross, is when Bitcoin already found the bottom and then it was ready to recover. So a lot of times when you look at these death crosses, golden crosses, because they're such a long lagging indicator, by the time it happens, the market is ready to rally in the opposite direction. So we're at that point now where the 50 is about to cross under the 100. This is the weekly sale, so a weekly moving average. And you could see back in 2018 when Bitcoin fell down and we were stuck there for a long time, right? When it crossed, that's actually when Bitcoin started rallying afterwards, right? And it's kind of the same thing. You go back to 2014, 2015, when it crossed, Bitcoin was going sideways and then shortly afterwards went on a tremendous run. So this is one of those bearish indicators that is actually bullish. Interesting. Here's another one. This is measuring the MA ribbon. So again, looking like what happened in 2018. I just talked about this last night. I showed you guys in 2018, it took about 4 months of just staying steady at the bottom before recovery, right? So that usually is what happens. When you're at a bottom, you don't recover that quickly. You tend to stay there for a long time because there's a lot of people in disbelief. People just are refusing to buy, having their money on the sidelines because they think horrible things are still coming, so they don't buy. But that's usually when you form a bottom, a true bottom, and then you continue upwards. And that's kind of like where we are now, right? But there's a lot of course, models like this and indicators that show, yes, we are at bottom and a reversal is coming. As for liquidations in the crypto market, specifically Bitcoin, we have a lot of shorts that will get liquidated around 25 to 26K. So that is the reason why last time Bitcoin hit 25K, couldn't really break above and broke below. And then you have a lot of long liquidations that will happen between 17 and 19K. And this is also the reason why Bitcoin, after hitting 20K, gets really strong too. So we have this this channel basically. But the good news is there's a lot more shorts liquidate than longs, right? So if we get that momentum, we get that drive upwards, and we break through 25, 26K, the next stop will be 29K, and we're going to see some very, very disappointed bears because they will get absolutely wrecked with a short squeeze. I'm waiting for that. I am waiting for that, so that's actually pretty good. What else is there? This is just showing all the previous drawdowns that Bitcoin had and the recovery that followed. So, going back, the first one's 93% from $32 down to $2, right? And then you have an 85%. That was $1,000 down to $152. Then you had 84% from $20,000 down to $3,100. And this time around, we're not far off. We went from $69,000 down to $17,000 or $18,000, and that's 75% down, right? So versus some of these previous drawdowns, yes, we're still about 10% away, but we're pretty close. So this is a pretty serious correction. I know that some of you guys agree with me that, yeah, prior downs, prior bear markets, prior bottoms, They may have felt worse. They could have been worse because obviously the price has been, well, price was lower. But if you look at the overall percentage, I mean, this is nearly as bad as those times. But what's good about it is what happens afterwards, right? You have a good recovery leading up to the next halving event. And then what happens after the halving event? Then you have an exponential blow off top, right? So if this continues, right, if the pattern continues, what happens? That means we are starting to come up from the bottom. We're going to see a significant rally. When is the next halving? In 2024. That's only 2 years from now, right? And afterwards, then we get a tremendous top again, right? Something like that. If you're looking to buy Bitcoin and crypto for the first time and you don't know where to get started, head over to CryptosRus.com and click on the best exchange guide. Within, you'll find a list of exchanges that I recommend and some that I use on a daily basis. If you are outside the US, I highly recommend looking at Binance.com first. They are the biggest exchange out there, supported in almost every single country. They have a fantastic fiat on-ramp, off-ramp system. They offer the most trading pairs and the lowest fees in the industry. You could also download a mobile app onto your Android and Apple device very easily. If you are in the US, I recommend taking a look at the sister company of Binance, Binance.us, which offers all of these things and more. So if you want to learn more, head over to CryptosRus.com or utilize the links in the description of this video.